are pro-teacher, pro-public education, and will stand up for healthy and strong communities with sustainable jobs. First of all, I would like to thank the Coalition of Women's and Pro-Education Organizations and individuals like Pam Kelly who came together to make this event happen. And what is really cool today, our 4 featured speakers are all women. We can win it with women. Women's voices and their votes is key to the fate of this year's election. Women, like myself, are healthcare workers, and we by far make up the workforce of educators, of healthcare workers. For example, Jean Shorter of the Kelly Coltala served on their local school boards. Jill Docking serves on the Kansas Board of Regents that governs higher education. And Sybil Orman, who will be here representing her husband, Greg Orman, is a public school teacher. But we must also take back our Kansas legislature. Kansas has seen the 4th biggest drop in the nation for per student funding since 2008. Change is needed in the Kansas legislature. I would like to introduce State Representative Nancy Luss. She serves this district right here, and she is going to introduce the House candidates that are here who are running for the state legislature.
Well, welcome to the 22nd House District. And I am very honored to introduce this next group of people. Running for office is a grueling undertaking. It seems like a marathon that will never end. And the people I am going to introduce signed up to run anyway. And why did they do that? Because they are the people who are not among those who are what I call the shallow thinkers. That's a term I came up with because it's so much nicer than stupid or other terms. The people I am going to introduce are the ones with the common sense to realize that the Brownback agenda is tanking our state budget and is bringing our state down. They are the ones who care enough. They're the ones with just like our Kansas City Royals. They are the ones with passion and heart and drive to do the right thing. And they are the ones with the courage and drive to stand up and take a public stand for what is right, the right side of things. They are the ones with the courage and drive to fight to rid our state of the disaster that is the Brownback agenda. So I am so honored and privileged to introduce them. And I have a list here, and I apologize in advance if I do miss anyone, because we're going to introduce the ones that are here in the room today. The first one up, Don McGuire for the 16th District. For the 14th. Larry Meeker for the 17th. Jared Osley for the 24th. Cindy Neighbor for the 18. And Vicky Hyatt for the 39. Is there anyone that I missed? Oh, sorry. Jan Pringle for the 38. So again, I'm so honored to be up here on the stage with this great group of people, all deserving of your respect and your support. So let's go get it.
Another tireless advocate for public education here today is Jana Waugh, who is on our current Kansas Board of Education. And as you may remember, not so long ago, anti-evolution forces made the state a national laughingstock when they tried to block real science from being taught in the classroom. Thank you, Janet, for your service and your We are also fortunate to have Dennis Anderson here today, who's running for Kansas Insurance Republican Insurance Commissioner Sandy Prager. He trains insurance agents, he knows insurance, he lives here in Overland Park. So thank you, Dennis, for being here.
For over 30 years, I've had a family business here in Overland Park, and it's been a family partnership consisting of my mother and my sister. And oftentimes people ask, how can you get along with a family business for that many years? Well, oftentimes it's really simple. You just get in a room and you work and you realize that you all have a common purpose, and you stay in that room and you resolve your differences. I am very appreciative of Sandy Prager's endorsement this few weeks ago. I believe that she's done an admirable job of safeguarding the standards by which we protect. I appreciate your support. If you go to our website, I have a small recording of a welding table that reminds people or tells people a little more about my background and why I'm in this race, and why I feel it's important to care for people in all aspects, regardless of their line of insurance. And it's the other thing I want to mention is I was at a forum in Tonganoxie just a couple of evenings ago, and it was rather interesting. One of the gentlemen from the back, as I was standing up and talking about the Medicaid expansion and the healthcare compact, stood up and he says, you know, I have a copy of the healthcare compact bill, and nowhere in there does it say anything about Medicare. And I said, I'm glad that you brought that question up. Of course it doesn't say anything about Medicare. What it says is that all federal rules with regard to health care will be repealed. And it says those decisions will be brought back to Kansas. I think that's bad policy. I think that's a bad idea. And we need to go out and communicate to all senior citizens that it is not a good idea to disrupt the care of all of our seniors in order to make a political statement. Is to make sure that citizens and people and businesses have the protections they need, regardless of what the weather blows in from the west, and make sure that we're an advocate and we speak out when we see bad policies blowing in from the east. Thank you.
I would like to now introduce Dennis Sweeney. He is with the board president for the Mainstream Coalition, which is one of the sponsors of the event, just as Kansas Families for Public Education, which provided the signs up here. We're also one of the sponsors for the event. Dennis will introduce our featured speakers today.
Thank you. Welcome to the this rally. I appreciate being invited to be here. We must all work together to get the vote out in November. And thank you for being part of this effort to reestablish moderate and reasoned Kansas values. Let's make sure this grassroots effort today continues until November 4th, when we vote for candidates that reflect the values of good public education, access to health care, and a fair and balanced tax system. It's time to empower Kansas to take back their government. It's time to make our voices heard. We have the opportunity during the next 11 days to motivate friends and neighbors to elect Dennis Anderson, Gene Shortdorf, Kelly Kultala, Greg Orman, and Paul Davis, who will stand with us for public education, health care, and fair taxation. I want the answer to be, what's the matter with Kansas, to be nothing. This morning we have a few community members who are going to introduce the candidates. The first being Cheryl Spalding, who's going to be introducing Kelly Kultala. Elise Higgins will be introducing Kelly Kultala. I'm sorry, Cheryl. I just looked at you there. So Elise Higgins is the government affairs advocate on women's health. Elise?
My name is Elise Higgins. I'm a Kansas Manager of Government Affairs at Planned Parenthood of Kansas and Mid-Missouri. I could not be more proud to be standing here today introducing Kelly Kultala. She has stood so strong with Planned Parenthood as a state senator to keep women's private medical decisions between us, our doctors, our faith, and our families. Thank you. As a candidate for U.S. Congress, Kelly's already voiced her support of the National Protect Women's Health from Corporate Interference Act, which is a response to the Hobby Lobby decision that threatens women's access to birth control under their employer's insurance plans. Boo is right, that's right. Unlike Representative Kevin Yoder, she'll also support equal pay laws, which would help decrease the gender pay gap, and we know that greater pay equity leads to greater health equity between men and women. At the end of the day, it is Kelly Kultala's commitment to bipartisan politics and her long-standing record of supporting women's health and public education that makes her the best candidate to represent us in Congress. Please join me in welcoming Kelly Kultala.
Good morning. Okay, we're going to do this again. And I say good morning, and then you say, good morning, Kelly. Okay? All right. Good morning. Good morning, Kelly. Isn't this fun? Don't you love the vibe? As Elise said, I'm Kelly Kultala, and you know I've been doing this a while when she pronounces my name correctly. I'm running for Congress here in the 3rd District, and I decided to do this because Washington is a mess. As a wife, a mom, a grandma, and a 5th-generation Kansan, I've seen what the dysfunction in Washington means to us back here in Kansas. It reminds me of when my daughters were little and they would fight over their Barbies. There'd be a lot of finger-pointing and name-calling, but nothing got accomplished. I decided to run because my family is part of the middle class. We've had to face financial ruin because of a family member who is sick. My husband has major medical health issues and has our whole married life, which was 36 years last August. And as many of you know, the medical bills add up. The doctor visits, the hospital the medicines, the accessories, and there was a point in our life when health insurance companies denied coverage, tried to tell me it was due to a pre-existing condition for him, and I spent months and months arguing with them about it, and I had to look into filing for bankruptcy. And no family should have to stare bankruptcy in the face because someone gets sick. I want to go to Washington to represent middle-class families. I want to protect this promise that seniors have been given regarding Medicare and Social Security. I want to support education for all of our children. And finally, let's get equal pay for equal days' work for women. I have the experience to reset priorities. We did that in Wyandotte County when I was on the Unified Government Board of Commissioners working within Mayor Kara Marinovich over here on the wall. She led the way and we were able to change the perception in KCK. I spent my career working across the aisle, working with Republicans and Democrats as part of a leadership team that passed the T-Works transportation plan that was to create 175,000 jobs. I worked with Republicans and Democrats at the locally elected officials to bring the Sporting KC Stadium and the Cerner office complex to the 3rd District. I put our campaign in a position to win. I've made almost 18,000 phone calls since the 1st of February. Our polling shows that Kevin Yoder's job performance is in the negatives, and people are looking for an opportunity to make a change. The only way we're going to change the game is if we change the players. And I want to thank all of you, because as candidates, as hard and grueling as this is, we cannot do it without you. You are the backbone to make a difference in the state of Kansas. And by gosh and by golly, if the Royals can be 2-1 in the World Series, Democrats and Independents can win the Kansas.
Next we have Emma Hawley, who is going to be introducing Gene Shorter. And Emma is a senior at KU and former student president at KU. Emma.
And thank you everyone for showing up today. Sorry, I'm the one, so we're going to adjust this a little bit. Again, my name is Emma Halling, and I'm former student body president at KU, and right now I'm working as a nonpartisan voter engagement intern at Planned Parenthood. And I'm here to tell you about how this work has been sorely handicapped by Chris Kobach's proof of citizenship laws. They have turned the fundamental right of voting into a difficult two-step process that has disenfranchised 20,000 voters in the state of Kansas thus far. And it's not just any voters. This is strategic. This disenfranchises young people, it disenfranchises people of color, and it disenfranchises the elderly. What is the motive for these restrictions? Well, to pay for college, I've babysat a lot, and I've played a lot of board games with kids. Remember the habit that kids have of changing the rules when they realize that the tide isn't going their way? The Secretary of State is starting
Johnson County, I feel like I'm home. I have so appreciated and enjoyed every one of you, and you make me feel like I am your friend, and I am home. I am from Wichita, Kansas. I love my city, but I love Overland Park and Johnson County. You are the most wonderful people, and you know how to get things done. And we're going to get some things done here November 4th. Thank you for that introduction. We need to value our young people. We want our young people to stay here in Kansas and make our state great. We need their talent, their beauty, their intelligence, their equality, and treating everybody the same and valuing everybody. The young folks, there's about 6,000 young people. They are the, sorry, I'm getting teared up here. But the young people there are about 6,000 people, teenagers and college kids that are on the suspended list. They are the largest group on that list. The second largest group then is people in the 20s. And there are people in every walk of life, every county, every age on that suspended list. The suspended list is going up, and I call it Chris Kobach's suppression list. The next 10 days are the most important of this election because we've worked hard. We've raised everybody has raised their money. We've been walking, we've been calling, we've been getting those ballots out. But yet the last 10 days are the days that the people who are undecided, who are going to make that difference because the races are so close, they are the ones who will make up their minds. And we have to be there to help people get out to vote, to make sure that everybody who's filled out an advance ballot request has gotten their ballot back. And the last 5 days, as we saw several years ago, will be full of lies, full of every kind of ad that you've ever imagined. And we have to be strong. We have to have energy. We have to be there to tell people the truth and get everybody out to vote. I say that because we've been through it, haven't we, Kelly and Cheryl and so many of us. We know what it's like. But this is the year for Democrats, and this is the year for Kansas. And I want to tell you just one brief story about how I got into this race. And this is how we are going to be successful, because this involves all of us. As you know, the SAFE Act was passed, and Chris Kobach was given 2 years to develop and implement. And he lied to the legislature. He did not implement it the right way, and before you knew it, before anybody knew it, there were 7,000 people on the suppression list immediately. He called them lazy. He called them procrastinators. They won't vote, 1%. So I had been watching that. And then I remember this so clearly, and as we do, as so many of us have that defining moment, where I woke up on a Sunday morning ready to go to church, but looked at the paper, and there was I opened the paper, front page, full-size story on two-tier voting. Now, we already had a 7,000-person suppression list, and this was another figment of Chris Kobach's imagination, pulled out from his mind, never on any statute, never in the statute. And two-tier voting, as you know, is the one where if you fill out a federal form, then you can vote for 2 or 3 people on the federal races. And if you fill out a state form, you can vote for all of them. And the way that works is that ticket, that vote will be, the ballot will be flagged, will be put in a pile, will be opened, Chris will do this, look at it, and look at your ballot, your secret ballot, and then look and decide only the federal races will be counted. And I looked at that, I read it a couple times because I couldn't believe that anybody could even dream to do that in our country and in Kansas. And then at that moment I could visualize our men and women in harm's way in Afghanistan and Iraq and all over the world. I could see them searching those houses for snipers. I could even feel the dirt and the grit on my face. And I thought to myself, how can one person in Kansas be taking away our freedom? In Kansas, of all places, the state that has fought so hard for the freedom of everyone. And at that moment, I said to myself, not on my watch.
Thanks, Gene. That was great. Next, we have Cheryl Spalding, who's going to be introducing Sybil Orman. And Cheryl is a board member of Main Street Coalition. She's worked with me over the last couple of years. She's been instrumental in helping Main Street grow and become more active in moderating Kansas. She's also a former president of the Blue Valley School Board and a former Republican legislature. Cheryl.
Current elected officials, I think there are 165 of us now, who are Republicans who are supporting Davis Docking. There are several hundred Republican teachers who are joining that group as well. As a Republican who is now supporting the independent Greg Orman. We all know Washington is broken, and we know Senator Roberts is part of that problem. We need someone who will actually work to solve problems. We need someone who will actually show up to the job that we are paying them to do. That's why we need to support Greg Orman. His wife Sybil is joining us here today to talk about Greg, but she's impressive in her own right, though, and we're excited to have her specifically here today. She's lived in Kansas all of her life. She's also a teacher who's taught the Turner School Districts because she wanted to make a difference. She's now earning her PhD in education policy, and so it's my great pleasure, and we are very excited today to welcome her here. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for letting me speak to you all today. I am experiencing a world that is relatively new to me. It is fascinating, eye-opening, frustrating, heartbreaking, difficult, interesting, exciting, to say the least. I still remember the first election I was old enough to vote in. I felt empowered, fortunate, and proudly American as I quietly entered the voting booth. At the time, like many Kansans, I was a registered Republican. As an 18-year-old, that is what I thought you were supposed to be. My parents were, my friends' parents were, my neighbors were, so I just assumed that by tradition, I was one as well. As I got older, I quickly realized that neither party could possibly have a monopoly on all good ideas, despite what they tried to proclaim. Furthermore, I felt that both parties had forgotten me, a first-generation college student, a teacher, the daughter of a single working mother, a lover of my country. Due to both parties' entrenched focus on stopping the other's agenda, I felt as though they lost track of what was important and whom they were actually representing. They are failing us. To accomplish anything, we must work together. We must send problem solvers to Washington. So Greg and I, wanting to make a difference, wanting Washington to work for the people again, decided to run for the U.S. Senate as an independent. As evidence of the brokenness of Washington, the incumbent and his campaign staff refused to run on issues. Rather, they throw mud, stir hate, spread fear, and that the notion that politics is just ruthless, ugly, and mean. But I ask, why? Politics was once defined to me as the peaceful resolution of competing interests. Where has the peaceful part of politics gone? I guess the same place that solutions have been hiding. The Sun Valley State has been my home my entire life. I grew up playing outside in the Four Seasons, grabbing a coat one day and shedding it for a tank top the next. I rode horses in the fields, I learned to drive on back roads, I was educated by Kansas's public schools. I have visited Eisenhower's home, I have admired the Capitol building, and I have visited the museum memorializing the historic Brown versus Board of Education decision. I have been a Wildcat and a Jayhawk. I have even cheered on the WSC basketball team. I have embraced all that is Kansas. I believe the incumbent has taken my home for granted. Work for my fellow Kansans vote, but rather he felt entitled to it. Now, when he has an opponent, one that people start to notice, and one that really wants to make a difference for all, he returns, full of false promises and false allegations. He doubts Kansans' ability to see through this, but I do not. When our senator is not showing up at committee hearings on agriculture, education, and most recently the Ebola virus, it means he is part of the problem. It's obvious he has neglected Kansas. My friends, my students, my family, Kansans deserve better. I ask you to stand with me this fall. I ask you to ignore the false truths which are being twisted into an inaccurate narrative. I ask you to seek the truth, discourage hate, and be open to the idea that someone really wants to do what is in the best interest of Kansas. Stand up against the failing status quo. I ask you to demonstrate that Kansas is full of independent thinkers, regardless of the political hue you may prefer. I have determined myself to be a proud, independent Kansan. Greg is one as well. The election this year is so very important. Washington is broken, and we have the chance to try and fix it this year. Let's send Greg to the Senate to focus on solving problems instead of playing these tired political games. I am encouraging everyone to vote. Please vote, so that they can be sure, so that you all can be sure that your voice, that your vote counts. Let's send a Washington. Let's send a message to Washington together to end the partisan fighting. Please exercise your right to vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Sybil. Next, to introduce Jill Docking, we have Finn Buller. Finn is an award-winning journalist and a reporter for the Kansas City Star, who's an advocate for persons with physical disability. Finn?
With his myth-making map. For you financial
free. Black is not white. Down is not up. And wrong is not right. Governor Sam Brownback is mocking the majority models of Kansas, tarnishing like a rusted late models of Cal, the state's luminary legacy of leaders like Dwight Eisenhower, Bob Dole, Nancy Kassebaum, and Dennis Moore. He's also tried to kill me. Now, with your help, the least I can do is to do unto others. For my part, I would simply work to kill his political aspirations. On January 1, 2013, Brownback turned 400,000 Kansas into lab rats in his grand for-profit experiment of healthcare on the cheap. Waving the Canada banner, Brownback painted a bullseye on my back, claiming me to be a cheat, trying to scam the system. The poster boy, if you will, for Medicaid fraud and abuse in Kansas. My only motive, I wanted to breathe. I wanted to raise my two children, ages 10 and 14, and I wanted to help others unjustly targeted by what critics best know the program as can't care. Three of my doctors testified in writing my view that it was medically critical for me to receive full-time care, or they said in writing I would die. But Brownback and his cronies proved unrelenting, attempting to cut my health care by 76% for 3 of every 4 hours of the day. And if my fragile breathing tube were to come off, air from the ventilator does not travel over my vocal cords, rendering me mute. A thought that probably encouraged Governor Brownback. What did Sam respond? Well, he told me in a private conference, call 911 and speak to an operator. For the record, the fastest EMT response, even in Johnson County, to my home, just down the street in Prairie Village, is 3 minutes and 58 seconds. My record for holding my breath was 2 minutes and 10 seconds. But then again, I guess that was just another case of mixed up Brownback math. Finally, after heavy media scrutiny, Brownback buckled, retreated, and reversed course. And on Christmas Eve 2013, after a 360-day battle with our esteemed governor, my 24/7 care hours were restored. The state called it a gift. And the thing, I guess, that I'm most proud of is not only that I was able to be strong and fight, but to be strong and fight for at least 32 other people. killing Kansans. Your mother, your father, your child, you. A recent Harvard study published by leading healthcare journals shows that there are as few as 113 Kansans and as many as 330 Kansans who will die because Governor Sam Brownback refuses to expand Medicaid. Now, this is not a fly-by-night journal. This is from the Harvard School of Medicine, a source that I can trust and believe. Closer to home, a KU study released in May concludes that expanding Medicaid in Kansas would prevent cancer deaths. Quote, there are some people who will die of cancer because we are not able to screen them, said KU's Dr. Edward Ellerbeck. And then an American Cancer Society poll shows that 7 of 10 Kansans support Medicaid expansion. And it's clear many Kansans will live shortened lives. This is a direct result of Brownback's refusal to expand Medicaid. Brownback's overriding agenda, let's scratch our head for a minute and think about it. It is to embarrass President Obama and the Kansas incumbent is willing to kill scores of Kansans to do so. So answer with me, friends. Is the sun still shining in Kansas? No. On November 4th, the clear and sunny choice, Moderate Davis and Donkey, because they don't kill Kansas. 11 years ago when she made better people to tell us what this all means. But little known fact, she became the first woman appointed as the commanding general of the Kansas Cavalry. With that in mind, it is my distinct honor to introduce the next Lieutenant Governor of Kansas, Jill Dawkins.
You, my friend, are an impossible act. After listening to Ben, I just ditched every note I had. And I want to tell you a little story about the campaign trail that follows up on what Ben said. When you're campaigning, you have an opportunity to listen to lots of different groups in as much detail as you have time to sit there. And right at the beginning of the campaign, which Paul and I started about 15 months ago, I met with a room full of providers for the disabled community, their moms and dads, and the people themselves who were disabled. And they explained to me in some detail what was going on with all the troubles with CanCare. And as I heard one heart-rending story after another, as you just heard Finn tell you, I finally said to them, have you been to Governor Brownback to tell him what's going on so that he could hear these same stories? And their response to me was, we have been to Governor Brownback and his administration, and we have been told not to speak publicly, which I'm sure they told you not to do, Finn. And we have also been warned that retaliation will be in order, and your 501c3s will be threatened potentially. I get up every single morning of this campaign remembering that story. I get up every single day to say, who are we in this great state of Kansas? We are not that group of people. We are all of you sitting here, and damn it, we're going to win this election. Presented some wonderful ideas and policies. May I assume you're all supporters, and I don't need to go through the reasons why we need to change administrations? May I assume that? Folks, we have to bring it home right now, because the only poll that matters is the poll on November 4th. I have seen many of you active at headquarters I've seen it in Johnson County, I've seen it in Sedgwick County. It is going to take hour after hour after hour of phone calling and canvassing, because that's how we're going to bring out our vote. We know if our vote gets out and vote, we know we're going to win this election, but it doesn't help if we don't get our vote out. People need to be reminded to vote early. They can already start voting. I'm already hearing about people who have voted. It is critical. The most critical part of this election is right now. And I know you're all busy. But I need you, please, to all volunteer, not just one shift, but 2 shifts and 10 shifts and 15 shifts. And if you are able to get out and walk door to door, we need you to go walk door to door. A year ago, 15 months ago actually, Paul Davis and I decided to go down this road together. When I first started making phone calls to people, it was a fairly limited group that thought we could get anywhere. It was a big, we were just, the job was too great, you will never get there. I am proud to tell you, the state of Kansas is on the front page of every national. This race is important for a couple of reasons. Because of people like Cheryl Spalding, who have stepped out of what has been a tradition for them for their whole life of being Republicans and good, solid Republicans
Republicans have had the courage to come out and endorse the Davis-Docking ticket. Over 160 former Republican office holders, the people who were icons to me 10 and 20 years ago, who were the president of the Senate, but they were Republicans, we were on different sides, we were respectful of each other. They have had the courage to step out of who they are and what they've been and what they believe to endorse the Davis-Docking ticket. And the reason they're doing it is because they are greatly concerned about what's happening in the state of Kansas. We have got to stop what is happening in the state of Kansas, because if Governor Brownback is reelected, it will solidify all those things that Finn has talked about, the lack of fiscal responsibility, downgrades in bonds, the defunding of our public school systems, K through 12, the strain it's put on higher education, the strain it's put on community college, the strain it's put on everything that's infrastructure in Kansas. Roads, water conservation money. It's not just school folks. We need revenues to do all sorts of things. We are going to turn this around. I have a couple family members from Massachusetts that have talked about coming in to help with this election. Happy that they're coming. One of them made the grave mistake of asking me what there was to do in Kansas City. And I gave them the address of the Johnson County facility that is going to implement all of this get out the vote. My job in my private life is to be a stockbroker. And you know, you cannot possibly be a pessimist if you're a stockbroker. I am an optimist. The sun will be shining in the state of Kansas. And the reason I am so optimistic about this race is I have never, in all my years being in politics, witnessed the coalition going forward hand in hand with our friends in the Republican Party, with those people that are independents, with the strength of Democrats getting out and vote. Let's go kick some you-know-what, folks, and get it done today.
grace, and humility, we would like to end this rally with "This Land is Your Land."
Election Day volunteers is one thing you can sign up for, and specifically we need poll watchers, which you can sign up for the campaign with the campaigns. But I'm also recruiting a legal team, which I'm a part of, that's going to be running into court if we have to on Election Day and after Election Day, when the other side is wreaking havoc and trying to prevent eligible people from voting. So, I've recruited a few people, but if you are an attorney and you are interested in being part of that team, please come see me after we're done singing this song. We're going to do 2 verses on the way out. Okay, whenever you're ready.
I'll have you guys know, clearly it's taken 2 of us to replace 1 dentist.
That's right.